That's James's wonderful salad today. And the only difference from yesterday's salad is black sesame seeds instead of, what do you call them? Sunflower seeds and snap peas. So he's eating the plum and yogurt again. I'm going to talk about the Bureau Season 3, The Power of the Dog, Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, Last Christmas, and Last Christmas. So the two at the bottom have the same title, but they're very different movies. So,
I'm gonna have to take the food inside. They're already starting to congregate, so I'll be back out in a second.
We're having very poor luck with the deck dinners lately.
The wasps
are really
we're having great
interested
luck
in
for a while, and
my
now
meal
their luck's
plans.
run out.
So I'm gonna have to find where their nest is and do something about it. And it's really easy to control wasps. What you do is you go out, with many insects this is the way that you control them. You go out really early in the morning, like dawn, or I mean if you had a flashlight you could go out earlier. And well, you know where, you find the nest ahead of time, you know where to go. And then you go out and you have a garbage bag and you put the nest inside a garbage bag. And because they'll all be in there for the night. They warm up when the sun comes out, and so if you take care of the nest when they're in there, you won't have any problem. Just make sure you really tie that garbage bag up tight, and it's best to do something like drown them or burn them. If you use a paper bag to put them in, because I mean honestly I've thought about it. I bet you there's a lot of people who just put their wasp nest right in the garbage can, and then the people who empty the garbage are going to have to deal with that, and that'd be terrible. So I mean, I guess if they were in there for a few days they probably wouldn't be alive, but still, I don't think it's a very good idea to just stick them in there, just in case they did bite their way through the bag or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so the Bureau Season 3. So far, this was my favorite of the Bureau seasons, and I mean, I've loved them all. They're very entertaining. You have to read subtitles to watch this. There's some English, and but there's not very much English in this. Mostly French, but not only either, because they're in Middle Eastern countries and stuff like that. So you have a lot of different languages, and well, there's a few, and you're going to be reading subtitles. So anyway. This show, there were a few things that I was like, maybe, like my favorite part of this was actually the main character's interactions with the dog. So I don't want to give too much away about that, but I will say when he encounters the dog, it's when he is being held as a hostage by, I think it's ISIS or something, but anyway, it's some terrorists, and they have this German Shepherd dog, and I was thinking, I don't think that seems right.
The terrorists have a German Shepherd?
Yeah,
no,
because they're Muslim and they don't like dogs, so I can't see that happening.
They're not supposed to hang around dogs.
No.
Dogs are supposed to be
So I don't think they did their homework on this, because that's not likely. Especially, I mean, the terrorists, they're going to be fundamentalists. This would not happen, right? So
those particular type of terrorists.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
one of the horrible things that the United States did at Abu Ghraib torture facility. It was a torture facility for Saddam Hussein, where he tortured people to death. The Americans, what they do is, it's absolutely horrible, scare terrorists with dogs, snarf.
Yeah.
That's threatening. The dogs weren't chowing down on the people, as far as Now, I don't support the United States doing that sort of stuff, but people who get all head up about that have got no moral compass. Abu Ghraib, like I say, was where Saddam Hussein would torture people to death. Lots of them.
So anyway, having said that, I mean, I watched it and I'm like, oh, that's not believable. But I did like the dog. It was my favorite part of the season. So,
Good actor.
or she, probably a she.
Yeah,
But yeah,
usually that
they
way.
usually use because
Wasn't Rin Tin
honestly,
Tin a gal?
female dogs are easier to train and they're smarter. So that's, I think they usually use female dogs. But anyway, what did I have to say about this? Also, when one young woman who's I mean, she's a spy, but she's pretending to be a seismologist. When the whole thing with the cleanup crew and everything, not believable. So there were a lot of things in this that I thought, I wish you'd made it more believable, you know, but still, I enjoyed it. Now, one thing, somebody had put the discs in the wrong order in this, and so I watched the first disc, and then I watched the third disc, and at the end of the third disc, I was like, because I was thinking it was the second, right? Because it was what happened. And I was like, that seems like the end of a season sort of thing. And when I went from 1 to 3, I was like, gosh, I feel like I must have slept or missed something, you know? Yeah, I missed a whole disc.
Bad
and so
feeling.
I watched the second disc at the end, and honestly, I really didn't find that I needed to watch the second disc. It was just, honestly, it was better to go from 1 to 3 as far as I could see. I didn't believe the big leader who was going to go on a mission and whatever. That was not believable either. So there were a lot of things in this that weren't believable, but I still loved it. I love watching this show. It's very entertaining spy stuff.
Yeah, it's important to make that distinction. A lot of people get their view of the world, and these are a lot of people.
Through fiction. And
yeah. So nowadays it's movies, mockumentaries, sometimes documentaries, but mainly mockumentaries or just regular movies. And then it used to be some of them would get their views from novels, and like people used to, like in the 19th century, novels were kind of like the equivalent of TV or movies nowadays.
All right, The Power of the Dog. This is a Western that I suppose it's supposed to be set in the United States, but it was filmed in New Zealand, and awesome. It was so beautiful watching. So I don't know if, yeah, it says against the desolate plains of 1920s Montana, but it was New Zealand apparently, and
Did they have some mountains in the background?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, it looked like
Montana.
It could be right.
Kind of like Alberta. They've got mountains in the background. Well, some of it. Well, they say on the plains of Montana. So,
yeah. So I don't know if they're gonna end up filming westerns in New Zealand more often, but why not? It looked really great.
Yeah, my suspicion is they've got a something like Canada has had. Probably still has, where filmmakers get subsidized in some way or another. You know, it's been that way for decades, I think, in Canada. And New Zealand, actually, for kind of like a Western, not so much a power, but country, has a low per capita GDP. They don't have a lot of resources and stuff like that. So that'd be one way they'd subsidize those sort of things. Yeah. That having been said, low GDP, but they probably got a really high actual standard of living in terms of quality of life.
So this has Kirsten Dunst in it and Benedict Cumberbatch playing a cowboy, and he did a great job. I wouldn't have thought that he would, but he's a great actor, so I don't know why I would.
He was playing a cowboy, you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
it's hard
he
to
did
picture,
it.
But there
yeah, I know. But anyway.
I was expecting to see him in a cummerbund. Oh, because of his name.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Well, I I just didn't find it very entertaining. It was interesting enough. I mean, but I don't know. Not. I just didn't rate anywhere near this. As far as I mean, this is subtitles. It's so entertaining that I'm willing to watch it, and I have to actually watch it because I have to read the subtitles, right? So I can't be writing poetry and whatever. Well, so that should tell you just how much I like this. This is really worth watching. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now the CGI or whatever they're using to do this, perfect. Because, I mean, you're watching this and you're like, yeah, it looks like an orangutan and a
Oh,
chimp.
there's an orangutan.
Riding
Is that riding a horse?
Yeah,
That's
and
hilarious.
they're talking, and you're
Oh.
like, yeah, that looks like they're doing it. Like, it's just very believable.
Looks like Donald Trump and his wife a little bit.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not really into this whole Planet of the Apes stuff, and I'm glad that they're doing it now because they can. I don't think they could do it any better in the future with whatever. I mean, the technology's there. It's as good as it's going to get, as far as I can see. And what's his face? I saw. William H. Macy was in this, so they did manage to pull out at least one decent actor. So whatever. But yeah, I don't know, kind of. It wasn't even that long. I was going to say kind of long, but it's just they all feel really long, don't they? So I don't see the time on here. Oh, there we go, 145 minutes. So
That's
I mean,
not
that's not that long. You expect it to be long, and honestly, it kind of feels like the Hobbit sort of thing. Like I went through those Lord of the Rings things.
Right?
Oh, so long. And I remember everybody was so into the Lord of the Rings, and I thought, oh, sleeper.
I like the scenery though. 'Cause
Yeah.
That was New Zealand again.
Yes,
If I'm
exactly.
not mistaken.
But
Yeah.
that's about it. I don't-
can't hardly know the characters. Gollum.
Who cares?
Can't, yeah. I should say before we move on that was a cheap shot about the chimp and the orangutan
What?
because I shouldn't be comparing critters that smart with Donald Trump as well.
Oh. Last Christmas. So, this is a very different. Like it says it's a new rom-com classic, and I guess that'd be romantic comedy.
Oh my God!
But-
Rom-com. We got to get used to that now.
Yeah.
It's like
So-
one of the Soviets like doing that Politburo, political bureau stuff like that. Like in the West, it tended to be more like NATO, like initialisms and stuff like that. But
Anyway, so this movie is a very different kind of romantic comedy. I have never seen a romance like this one. So it's sad and it's heartwarming and it's all that.
Chickadee's trying to
And
cheer you up in the background when you say
There's
sad.
some cute, kind of funny-ish things and whatever, but I don't know. I enjoyed it. They got some decent actors involved and stuff like that, but I don't know. I mean, even though it was different and stuff like that, there were some things in here that I thought, why'd you put that in? Like there's, they tried to make it more political. It didn't have to be, and it shouldn't have been. So, I mean, you have the main character. She's a woman that she introduces herself as Kate, and she doesn't want to let on that, like, her name's really Katerina, that she's maybe from I can't remember
from Eastern Europe.
Yeah, from Eastern Europe. She doesn't want to let on, right? So this is set in probably London, because it seemed really, well, it seemed very British, but and it seemed very big city, so where else would it be? But anyway, then they have, somebody's on there's a young Caucasian dude who's on the bus, and he hears some people speaking in some, maybe Russian or something like that, or whatever, in a different language on the bus, and he says, "Speak English when you're in my country," to them, and that didn't need to be there. It shouldn't have been there in the movie. Why make it more political when it doesn't have to be? It should have just been a romantic comedy, just the way it was, and whatever. But honestly, so I think that alone actually put it down on the stack for me.
It's kind of something that happens. It might be irrelevant.
It's just irrelevant.
I've had something like that happen in a restaurant in town. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a.
Oh, to French people. You told me about that.
One French person, and then one person's actually Danish.
Yeah.
Been at a French boarding school and stuff like that. Knows French very well. I mean, you know, like I saw her playing Scrabble against this woman who's from Quebec, and she just blew her doors off. That's how good her French is. So they were talking French, and some idiot, who wasn't probably even a militia type, he's walking by and says, "Talk white." He's so stupid, he doesn't even know it's French people are white. The French woman is kind of darker, maybe mixed a little bit with indigenous, but talk white, what an idiot. People like that should be fed a little fist, to use hockey terminology. That's what they deserve. They shouldn't be feted, but that's what they deserve. But yeah, because I don't believe in violence. But something like that, they maybe should be in jail. But anyway, go on.
I don't know. That even seems a bit harsh for me. But
jail. The guy is a threat. You see what I'm saying?
Well, it does seem kind of threatening, especially with the guy saying that to women.
Can you please talk white or something?
So, I mean, guys, they'll say all sorts of things to each other just because they want to do this dominance thing with each other, right? But to say to
many
women,
guys are that way. I mean, I have had many run-ins with them, but I wasn't running into them. They were running into me out in the soccer field.
I know.
Guys like that I have no use for.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is the second last Christmas thing, and this one is also from Britain. So you might go, okay, which one? Somebody recommended that I watch Last Christmas. It's not this one. And this one's bottom of the stack. So this one is quite terrible. It's about a young, well, it's always tough when you're working with child actors. So you have the main character is a little boy, and his dad has come back as a ghost to hang out with him, and he's not doing a good job.
The dad is?
Yeah, he's not being very nice or anything like that. He's trying to get his son against his ex-wife and all this. He's just not, even death hasn't made him
I gather it's not a Hallmark classic.
No.
It sounds a little dark.
Yeah, well, it's not really. It's just kind of stupid. And it's definitely not worth watching. So, I guess James is going to talk about Obsession now. So,
5 in?
I don't know. I'll look for you. 9 minutes and a half.
I should have said 10 minutes when I was speaking. But anyway, what's that show about the profilers, Criminals' Minds?
Yeah.
There we go. So
right.
This is the stuff that inspired Criminal Minds, from what I could tell. FBI profiler, that's this dude here. On the back, there he is, and this is something like his ghostwriter over here. This is, I think, a much younger picture of this guy in the front. So, from what I can tell, this is John Douglas, and this fellow on the back, Mark Holschucker. oil shaker, really mispronounce it. So there's a few pictures that come with it. I'm not going to show you some of the victims. This is basically about rape and rape murders. So they've done at least one other book together, if I'm not mistaken. But we're talking about romantic comedies and stuff like that. Women have to, people in general, but women in particular, have got to get out of their mind that good-looking people are good thinking and good acting people. So here's one guy who looks like a criminal in the movie, right? He's lacking some hair there up top. Let's look at some others. Here's a guy, like this guy actually, they were saying he was a horrible guy. He'd capture women, and he wanted to have 10 wives and 10 kids from those wives. He'd keep some of them in a hole there, put water in them, and kind of mini electrocute them, but not kill them. He accidentally contacted the chains of one woman and killed her. So he's a murderer as well as a kidnapper and a rapist. But like someone pointed out his eyes, and his eyes look kind of weird. But this guy had an IQ minimum of 130. They say one test he tested out 148. Average is 100, or maybe a little bit over. Should be 100 by definition. And see, he's got a beard, but it's trimmed. His hair seems well taken care of. Guy, stone cold killer. He killed at least 2 women, and he kidnapped and raped many. This guy's supposed to be handsome. He looks as though he's a smoker. This looks as though it's when he was confined. This is the infamous Ted Bundy, Theodore Ted Bundy. They say he killed maybe, I think ultimately they figured maybe 30, but some were figuring 50, 60, something like that. His modus operandi was he'd wear a cast in a sling. He asked women for help, and when he got them away, oftentimes he'd get them in his little VW, and the VW didn't have a handle on the inside, on the passenger side. And then he'd bludgeon them to death with what? His cast. Make sure it was on his right arm. This guy actually doesn't, he looks maybe a bit creepy, but not really. He's about 50 years old. Generally, when guys get around 50, almost all of them start looking creepy, if they're not in a business suit or something like that. This is the guy who inspired Psycho, actually. Apparently, Silence of the Lambs as well, but Psycho, actually the book that the movie was based on, the Alfred Hitchcock classic, came out just shortly after this guy was apprehended. Now he had an IQ of about 99, which is a little bit below average, but not much. So Ted Bundy, IQ well above average, not exactly genius level, but 120, right? And he really doesn't look like a standard criminal creep. Now get ready. This guy killed a woman in Central Park. Okay? Now, someone described Elvis as handsome as 10 movie stars, and that's after a little bit of surgery on the wings of Elvis's nose, and so I don't know what this guy's teeth were like. This would have been taken somewhere around 1986, I think. I was in New York when this stuff happened, or just after it happened, and it was all over the news, so on and so forth. The woman that he killed, this woman here, I was really taken with this fellow. Don't get taken in by looks, okay, folks? And that applies to men as well as women, okay? Don't get taken in by looks. This guy's more handsome than Elvis. Look at that jaw on there. His nose wouldn't need any surgery. Now, she kind of tried to give him a nose job and stuff like that. She was biting his hands, scratching his... he didn't rape her, he just wanted to kill her, right? and scratched his face up. And he was saying things like, when the police got hold of him, he was the last. He's so stupid. Last person seen with her before she ended up being discovered as a corpse. And he was saying, they asked him, how did you get scratches on your hand? Oh, I was playing with my cat, throwing it up in the air and catching it. And then they check it out. And then, the cat had been declawed.
That is funny.
So yeah. I mean, it's a tragic comic. I mean, the guy had, he's telling all sorts of stories. Like, we parted right after we got out of a club, and I went on, and she went into a place to buy cigarettes. Turns out she's not a smoker. I said, what a fool.
Oh, the baby.
The sad thing is, he lost his temper. He didn't plan to kill her, and he was saying she jumped on top of him and was trying to take advantage of him sexually, I guess, and he threw her off, and she kind of landed funnily on her neck, and that must have caused her to asphyxiate. Well, they figured out the way he didn't asphyxiate her exactly with his hands. They figured it would have taken several minutes of applied pressure. He's just lying, a horrible scumbag, and stuff like that. So don't be fooled by looks. This guy's maybe an okay guy. He doesn't look that impressive. Neither of these two guys look that impressive. Maybe they're okay guys. Understand, this guy's an FBI profiler. Take that for... I don't think they're nearly as bad as J. Edgar Hoover or something like that. I don't think they're nearly as nice as they'd want us to believe, but they're having to deal with a lot of scumbugs, and they'd have a very different view of reality than the average person would, because they'd be having interviewed these scumbugs. They'd have to be, and of course everyone would be under suspicion, right? Of course, this Robert Chambers, that last guy, it's just automatic. But some other people, they got to be cynical about everyone, because someone out there is lying, right? Mm-hmm. And not necessarily someone that they catch. So, like when Paul Bernardo, the Canadian serial killer, he was on a they had him in for, actually, even before I think he did any murders, because he was a rapist, and he progressed or regressed or whatever. And, they were interviewing lots of people, all that sort of stuff, and they'd have to be cynical about everything, really. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think someone who's really nice wouldn't do well there. Like a Mennonite might not do very well. Let's take it easy on Rosa. They've got to ask tough questions. Like I know someone who was living with someone who was diabetic and lost a foot or something like that. He didn't want to go to hospital. The guy who was kind of going slowly into the grave, and died in the house where this person I know lived with him. And the cops came in, and this person I know was a little bit upset. Well, they call it a sudden death. I know, working at the cop shop, the dispatch would come in. Sudden death. They've got to go out and they've got to treat everything like that as a possible murder. They've just got to investigate. What happens if they blow it and they don't apprehend someone who's killed someone in